Everybody's rested? Kind of? All right, so we're going to do a little bit of experiment, and you do this with your students, I'm sure. So let's get this side of the room, and we'll just come back to this later. But just to get the energy flowing, the blood flowing a little bit. Raise your arms up. Everybody on this side. Okay? Put them down, please. Up one more time. Down, please. What is he doing? Up one more time. Down, please. All right. We'll come back to it. This side, you know the drill. Everybody up. Down. Up. Here, we'll make it real fun. Down. Up. Down. All right, I just took a slew of pictures, and you'll see why later. And I promise I'm not putting this online. Maybe I should. Maybe I can promise that. All right, so let's just jump in. If you guys are all right with that, you guys okay?
Yeah.
Let's jump it in. All right. So if you didn't get to the Edmodo page for whatever reason, this presentation is easily found on the website, on the training website. Sorry with the sort of the view here. It's edutechserve, it's phonetically spelled out, edutechserve.com/iPad. And a couple of people were able to actually get that QR code as well, and so we'll look at that. There's a specific reason why I pointed some people to that particular QR code. And so I didn't even get to look at the survey more recently. I was looking at it earlier, and one of the polls that I asked on the Edmodo page, just the question, how many people here represent schools that have gone Google? You have Google apps within your domain. Wow, okay, good number. And I'm just for general representation's sake, we have some K through 3 teachers in here, all right? Thinking a lot of touch devices for K through 3. 4 and 5 teachers, any 4 or 5? Any middle school teachers? High school? Any high school? Okay, so we got some overlap too, okay. Any higher ed? What about admin? Okay, cool. All right, so this is applicable to all of you. Okay, I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that this is applicable to all of you in whatever grade level that you teach, and even you personally. And so here is my challenge to you. My challenge to you is to find less than 5 applications that I've chosen today that you cannot use. I didn't say that right. Let me just say it the other way around. I can guarantee that you will walk away with at least 5 applications that you can use. And at least 5 others that you'll say, I'm going to investigate that further. And if we saw each other a year from now, you say, oh, I'm starting to use this, I'm starting to use that. And we'll go, we'll get into it. This is mirroring displays. You're not familiar with Reflector. It is superb in my opinion because it gives the orientation of the device and gives you that sort of feel. And our Apple TV thing wasn't working as well as I'd like to. So I'm just going to be kind of switching back and forth, and hopefully that's okay with you. So here we go. True story. A friend of mine, I like to call him a friend of mine, I was at Google App Summit, and we were talking, and all the different presenters and Google trainers that were there, and he made this comment. True story. All right, let me give context. Number 1, this was a year ago, so a lot has changed a year ago, in a year. And secondly, this was made in a private one-on-one conversation, so it wasn't something that he would get up on stage and say. But I did ask for his permission to quote him, and he said that was fine. But you know, it's kind of ironic because if you look at this iPad that I'm operating on, this is what this iPad looks like. This is my lock screen, and these are the different apps that are on this iPad. It's just chock full of Google apps. I'm a Google certified trainer. I love Google applications. I love cross-platform applications. So this is what my iPad looks like. So it's just not trivial. Funny meme, you can find that online, and you can write in whatever you want. And with my 8th grade students, I like to just throw in different quotes all the time. You know, tell them, not true. What's that? It's a meme, so it's something that you can put your own text to it. It has And I want to find the original comic strip. I'm like, why did Batman smack Robin like that? I have no idea. No clue whatsoever. All right, so enough shenanigans. Are you guys ready? Because we're about to go in the ball right now. All right. All right, so first off, Google Chrome. Google Chrome users out here? Okay, so I'm wondering, do all of you also use the Google Chrome browser on your iPad? So just a few things to note about Google Chrome. I love Google Chrome browser. It has the layout, feel, speed, all of that as the desktop does. One of those features that a lot of people don't necessarily know is that you can click on the little hamburger bar, that's what we call it there, the hamburger bar on the right, and you can look at other devices. And these are any of the other devices that I'm signed in on Chrome. And if I'm signed in on Chrome on any of those other devices, I can go to any of those links. So whether that be from a desktop, or that was my phone, there's that laptop. I have a lot of devices. I have a Chromebook, so I have a Nexus 7. Right, so yeah, I'm one of those guys. It's just one of those things I love about Google Chrome. Also, I'll show you something with Google Search, and just to highlight it now, the same things that I tell you about Google Search in terms of the different features that you can use with it, with voice search. See the microphone and the omnibar right here? The same exact commands up, and then our display one like that's even fun. But we'll see how that works out. Let's see if this comes back. We're going to have one of those presentations. All right. Come on, funniness. I don't know if anybody else is, I love these. Just look online. It's there. It's just not there. This only happens when I present. So let's go. It just stopped mirroring. No, it's supposed to be mirroring. It stopped mirroring. So we'll just jump back in there. Another thing, a point that I'll highlight later is that's another big thing I love with Google applications is they're cross-platform, so we can just kind of jump from one device to the other. So it happens to be stop working right, stop displaying, so it's just jump off of it, going back on the MacBook, and if I needed to jump on a different app, on a different platform, I just use the same app. It's all cloud-based, so it's fine. So you can also sync all your bookmarks and view tabs across devices, like I said. Something else to note about the Google Chrome app is that it integrates with other Google apps if you have on your device. So for instance, if you have a mail to link on a website, if you click on it, it will open it up in the Gmail app if you have that app installed. If you point to an application, or a file that's on a Google Drive, and you have the Google Drive app, and you click on that link, it will open it up in Google Drive. So it kind of gives you that seamless integration that you would expect maybe on an Android device, but you can also replicate on an iOS device if you have all of these apps on it. And it's a single sign-in. And this is really recent. I mean, like last week recent, to where in most of these applications, if you're signed in just on one of them, so if you're signed in on Google+, then on Google Books, on all these other apps that you point out, on most of them, you have a single sign-in that's already gone through, and that's very helpful. I already mentioned this point, so it uses the same functionality, and maybe we'll get a chance to demo and see how it works. Here's another thing. So all of my lower grade teachers, and so I don't know how your setup is, but we have shared devices for our younger age groups, and we don't have, those students, they don't have their own Google account. Not yet. They don't get their own Google account until 4th grade at Trinity Episcopal School. And so there are certain things that we do to try and set them up with a generic account. So each grade level, some of you might start buzzing and thinking, I need to talk to my guy. Everybody has the guy, the girl. Can you do that for us? And it's really simple. You're a Google Apps school, and the district will allow it just to set up an additional user and give them certain permissions and control. And so for controlling for lower ages, and I'll bring this up later, some other apps, but you can just create a generic account on the app domain. And so for this sort of case, if I'm working with really young age students, I may just disable chat and email services with Google Talk. And so I'm controlling what they have access to, but I still want to be able to sign in with that single sign-on so that I can do things like maybe sign into that generic account on the iPad, or matter of fact, anywhere, right? Because as a teacher, I'm in control. All I have to do is sign in under that account, and I can sign in with sync controls on Google Chrome, and then I can bookmark sites left and right, and then as long as that same account is on those iPads, those bookmarks are already syncing across every one of those devices. Remember that theme as we go across some of these other applications, and think, especially lower school teachers and elementary age teachers, how could I use this? Yes, question?
So if you have a Google Apps for Educators domain and you're the administrator, you can control within the group setting?
Yes.
Whether they have access to chat or email?
Yes, yes.
It's not across the whole?
No, right. You can set it up first based on the organizational unit.
So just that for that specific group?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And you can even do, if you want to talk offline, about even how to set it up even further. I mean, we even have some rules for across our school, but then we have a couple of individual groups of students that they have some different circumstances. I'll just leave it like that. So we turn on certain services for them, turn off other services for other kids. Great question. Highly interactive. Please don't mind raising your hand. We can have this as a longer discussion. I'm all about it. All right. Google Search and Translate. Now, I really wish this was working, and I might even try it just one more time, just for the sake of trying. Do you want to? So a lot of people think Google Search. What's the big deal about Google Search? Google Search is like my favorite app. I mean, Google Voice Search, especially for younger age kids, my favorite app. I mean, I absolutely love it because instead of doing the traditional format thing, when you hand out a worksheet and you tell the kids to investigate something, and you tell them fill in these blanks, right? You tell them to find out the capital of blank and the population of blank, and then and it's just fill out this worksheet. They find the answers, they're done, and they turn it in, and they're showing you that they completed the assignment. Well, how about flipping that completely on its head and making it completely inquiry-based, and instead teach the skills necessary to do research. Teach them, give them a little worksheet, for instance, on the same presentation, everything on here. These are all hyperlinks. So when I say use these tips, I have a whole worksheet that's set up for you. You can open that up and check it out. But you can instead just teach them the different voice tips and maybe give them a few prompts, like 3 or 4, and then leave the rest blank and ask them, what questions did you ask? And what answers did you find? Don't you think kids enjoy that much better than the standard stuff that we give them? So Google Search, over here. So just an example.
I have a question about
Sure.
that. And we're just starting to roll out, so we haven't used iPads with the kids at all yet. But
Yes.
I know that just from computer lifetime, with Google searches, third grade teacher, I'm very careful about, because Google or Google Chrome or any of it is just wide open, and a search can get you anything. And I've taught them to put for kids,
Right.
learning about whatever for kids. Do you have suggestions on that for the lower elementary?
So-
As far as controlling the data that they come up with on that Google search?
Well, the biggest thing is I want to teach them how to do certain things correctly. So so if you open this up, because here's the reality, and some of us, some of you may disagree with that. I have 4 children, so I think about this not only from an education standpoint, but I think about it from a parent standpoint. And I want to teach my daughter how to be careful, but also I want to guide her in the right direction, because she may find some things on accident or whatever it may be, without me being present. But the biggest thing I'm gonna do is just teach her some basics of how to do the right thing and how to do the right thing right. If I'm teaching my daughter how to ride her bike, I don't spend the majority of my time telling her, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I'm spending most of my time saying, this is how you do this is how you do this right, this is what you want to do. And so these are some tips, and I'm not 100% sure. I hope that didn't feel like I'm dodging, because I understand. But some of these things, I think, help with noting, hey, these are the kinds of questions that you can ask Google, and these are the kinds of answers that it will give you. And let them experiment with them. Let them experiment with them with you being present. That's the most important thing. And so, let's say, for instance, I were to look up certain things like this. So I like to send them on their own little scavenger hunts. I wonder if this. All right, so maybe I can ask a question like, where is South Africa? I said that wrong.
Here is a map of South Africa.
And I meant to say Cape Town or something like that. But okay, so I skipped a step. I apologize. So where's South Africa? Now notice what Google search does, and let me also make this other point. Maybe you're like our school, we've invested in iPad 2s, and so we don't have Siri. So that's a question I get a lot. Well, why not just use Siri? Because everybody doesn't have Siri. Not all your teachers have iPhones at all, first of all. Not all your parents have iPhones, second of all. But even if they do have iPhones, they don't all have. They don't all have iPhone 4Ss. So I want to level the playing field. So this is where using Google search allows that option. So I say, where is South Africa? And here's one of those features which I think is awesome. It kind of builds. It will listen to you and build on previous things. So where's South Africa? It told me where it is. What's another question I want to know about South Africa? What time is it there?
According to Wikipedia, what time is it there? Is it 2000?
All right, it had that pause because I talked too long. Where is South Africa?
Here is a map of South Africa.
What time is it there?
According to Wikipedia, what time is it there?
I gotta love it. All right. What's the weather like in South Africa? What's the weather like in Johannesburg?
It's 76 degrees and we were in Johannesburg.
What time is it there?
The time in Johannesburg in South Africa is 8:51.
So anyway, we can keep playing with it. When you give them a list of types of questions, and you're helping your kids. They're saying, "No, it's not giving me the kind of answer I was after." Well, maybe ask it this, or ask it that, or maybe ask it different. And you're teaching them research skills, and they're asking questions that they are most interested in. And then imagine you could just have one topic, have a group of kids, or have 4 different groups of kids researching the same topic, and you ask them to tell you what questions they ask, and they share with the whole group. And the next thing you know it, the whole class has found out all kinds of wonderful stuff about something that you couldn't have imagined yourself, and maybe you would have found a worksheet off the internet, let's be honest. But this is much different. So I could go on and on and on for days about Google Voice Search, but I give you some tips there, and even give you an activity that I did with some other teachers, and we kind of built a program on that, or a lesson plan on that. It also has a quick link for other Google applications on it. It's just sort of simple. If you're in that application, kind of go back here. Come on, you can do it. You notice I can go to apps, and it has some quick links to some other apps without having, they're just links. They don't have the same functionality. They are just the mobile web version of those things. But it's helpful in certain cases. You might want to just jump straight into some of those things. But notice the other one that I pointed out is Translate. It literally speaks for itself. You guys used Google Translate before? All right, so I'm like, I wish I would have given you a list and said, preload all of these apps before we meet. just because if we had the time, I think it would be awesome to, just to note that on Google Translate, I can even say to detect language. Does anybody here speak another language? Got a winner in the back. All right, so it's technology, so it might not work right. If you click on the microphone and just tell it something, and then we'll see how well Google does with it.
¿Qué hora es? Like, can I do it?
It's hating us.
This is what technology does. And you put it in my hand, so I wonder if their spoken language too.
And it stopped working. All right, so you guys are gonna have to take my word for it. Now, I don't. For some reason, if you see this microphone is grayed out altogether, so I'm not sure exactly. One of those hiccups we just work through, try to figure out. But maybe you would turn in. I mean, just type in K or S, and you see it will translate it and say what time it is. Oh, now the light comes on. K or S. But that's just detecting language, but you can flip it back around, you can type in, so you can just think, how would you use that for your different grade levels? Question?
Is this, my brother travels to Mexico a lot and has an app that he can hold it over any document that's in a foreign language and it will translate it on the screen for us.
Oh, that's awesome. We need to find out about that.
Very cool.
So my brother-in-law works in subcontracting. He has he has an Android phone, so but the same thing, right? With Google Translate in. But the way that on the Android it has a conversation mode, and so he literally will work with some of the Spanish-speaking subcontractors, and they'll have a conversation like this. Kind of weird looking, but it happens. Better than not being able to talk at all. Gmail and calendar. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these. Just want to point out, especially if your school has gone Google, right? All you have to do is just install the Gmail app and sign in Gmail. Okay, so and you notice here I am, I'm signed into Gmail on my school account, and I also love the fact that you can switch fairly easy. There's something with touch screen, like everything that I want to show you guys works differently if I wasn't showing it to you. Oh, because I haven't added an additional account, so I can add another account. And so you can switch between different accounts. I'm not going to say that because we do have a couple admin people here. I'm not going to tell you that you can switch easily between your personal account, but you can, which is helpful. But also notice it. I mean, it just has the same layout and structure of your desktop environment, and so you're not dealing with a translation sort of deal. If you star something that's going to be starred in your Gmail, your web app. If you move it to a different folder, it's going to be in that different folder. It's not something that you're going to have to, from Apple Mail, then later on get on your desktop and make those sort of shifts and changes that you would normally do because it's the same native app. And another thing, just to point out, is the reality, and maybe you've picked up on this, why use Google Apps versus the native Apple apps? And this isn't a one is better or not. Well, part of it is because your Google Apps schools, a lot of you, and so there's just an ease right there, a single sign and all that. But you also know that Google's philosophy is put everything in the cloud versus put everything on a device. And so you can kind of make your purchasing decisions, admin, based on, we don't have to have a 32 gigabyte version or a 64 gigabyte version or some, what's the name, 128 gigabyte version. You can go with the bare minimum because you're going to keep everything on the cloud. That's very, very, very important. And Gmail allows you to do that. Calendar allows you to do that. And again, you're talking about something which has a seamless experience between what you're doing on a desktop, on a web version, and what you're doing on a mobile version. So also let me point out with the calendar, there are a few different calendar apps that are out there that they sync with Google Calendar and all that. There's not an official app right now. But the one that I like the best is Calendars by Readle. I don't know if it's Readle or Rail. And so it has most of the same exact features. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of training a third grader to become my Google Apps Ninja for mobile. So she's my first experiment doing that for mobile. And I put in front of her an iPad and an Nexus 7 and give her options to flip between the two. And I designed the test to look at, you know, are both experiences similar? And 99% of the time they are. So I would point that out as well. I won't get into it. Google Play Music, some of you might already be going, why? Why? Why would you care about putting a music app on an iPad? I'm glad you asked. Well, first off, let me just point out, this is also an unofficial app, and so you would want to install this app for G Music is what it's called. Again, these are all hyperlinks, so if you click on that, it's going to take you directly to the app. Okay. Lower age, younger students again. This is one of those things I love. Create a dummy account. Create a dummy account for them. And with all of those in there, you can then upload music. You can upload an entire playlist. And remember, this is all cloud-based. And you can do this from your desktop. You can do this at home. You can do, matter of fact, you have to do the uploading process from a desktop. You're going to have to do that from, and you can't even do that on a Chromebook if any of you have Chromebooks. You're going to have to do it from a PC or a Mac. But once you've done that, under that account, it's there, and it can mass deploy to all of those devices for different grade levels. And here's the cool part. You can upload up to 20,000 tracks for free from your personal library. Let me also point out that when you sign on, the first time you try to sign on, it's going to ask for your credit card information. You're like, what? I'm not buying anything. You don't have to, but they do want it on file, and probably for the obvious reason, because if you do happen to decide to want to buy something from the Google Play Store, we already have your credit card information on file, but you don't have to buy a single thing. You can say, no, I want a free version, and I'm trying to help you see how you can use this for education purposes. Something else to point out, I love this site, absolutely love this site. So I said that everybody walks away with at least 5 things. Here's one, just guaranteed off the bat. Open Culture. If you've never been to openculture.com, you will love it. Tons and tons and tons of free Creative Commons resources. Free. It's all free. It's all free. You know, this is Oprah moment right here. All free. And it's awesome because on mine, that's cut off again. Let's see if we can do this real fast. Come back on. Yes. So I was telling you about my daughter before, and as this is loading up, let me point out, again, this is not the official Google Play app, so for iOS, there's not an official app. Here's a good thing about that when we're talking about having the sort of dummy accounts. If you were on an Android device, you're limited to 10 devices per account. But because this is an unofficial app, this app doesn't recognize that there are multiple devices. So you can have, we can have, like I have, we can have, you know, on 44 devices, all the same account signed in. It doesn't matter. So this was my experience a couple weeks ago. I did this for our students, and then I thought, hey, I need to do this for my daughter. So on that same website that I showed you, of openculture.com, I found the entire book of the Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe readings. Matter of fact, all 7 books are already available for free online. And so you can pre-install those. And again, you just do this once on one account. And I'm telling you to be ethical. I'm asking you to use openculture.com as a, for instance, in Creative Commons sort of resources to put things that are free to share. I'm not asking you to do that as well. Yes?
If I'm using the wrong terminology.
Sure.
iTunes,
Yes.
is it AirPlay?
Mhm.
Is that $25 a year where you can use all of your different devices, and is that basically the same kind of?
With iTunes and their deal, yes. one of my big things, and I'm definitely not here for the Apple versus Google war. I'm here for the kids. And I would say, and I'm going to get to this even more later, but I want to challenge every single person here to always think, especially all those that are concerned about BYOD, because you should be concerned. If you're not, you should be, because even if your school's not going to BYOD, other schools around you are, and you need to consider what's cross-platform. What's something that can be used on multiple devices? What can be used on multiple devices? And so, if I say, oh, well, on this mobile device, I can do this, but I can't really do that on this one, then what are we communicating to parents? What are we communicating to those kids? If we say, you can't use what you have, you're going to have to get something different. Is that really fair to them? And here I am, a Google trainer, telling you all the great things that you can use on an iPad, because they are cross-platform. And if they weren't, then I wouldn't share them. I'll just be completely honest. I just wouldn't share them. So think about that as well. Make that part of what you think about. And it'll be a part of our last slide that I'll bring up. That if we have time for, I can really get on the soapbox about, but maybe leave it alone. All right, here's another one. Why is that on there? Google Plus. Anybody familiar with Google Plus? So if you're not familiar with Google Plus, just know that it is only 2 years old, and it has already overtaken Twitter as the second most popular social media platform. That's pretty impressive. Really impressive. So it should kind of make you think, should I at least take a cursory glance at this and look at this a little bit? But I love Google Plus for, so again, we got different people in different places. Teachers, if you use Google Plus for no other thing, I'm going to give you at least 2 things to use it for. Number 1, auto backing up all of your photos and videos in a private album. You can do, I'm just saying, even just your personal stuff. So you just sign up for an account, you say auto backup on, so anybody ever lose a phone and lose all your pictures with it? Kind of stinks. Well, that's great. You can do iCloud now, 5 gigabytes limit, or else upgrade. You can do with Google Plus free unlimited storage. Yes.
So is that complement Google Drive, or is that, it seems like Google Drive does the same thing, right?
It doesn't, it doesn't. If I talk about photos and videos, if you store photos and videos in Drive, then you're actually using up some of your limited storage space. I mean, limited 30 gigs. But you're talking about in Google Plus, you're talking about unlimited. And a lot more features of what you can do with those photos, which I'll demonstrate. But they can even, if you have photos in Google Drive, and then you have Google Plus, you can say, hey, in Google Plus, I also would like to turn on to be able to view my photos that are in my Drive. So you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. But just pointing out a couple things that you can do. When this comes home. So here I am signed in under a generic account, under our student generic account here. And this is for a 4th and 5th grade iPad. And notice if I go over to photos, it's going to pull up highlights. Hey, there you guys are. And here's the other thing to know. So I told you I wasn't going to share this online. I'm not sharing it online. It is in Google Plus, but it's in a private album. Okay? It's not viewable to the world unless I shared it, and I've already got to you that I wouldn't share it. But I have something to confess. There are 43 other iPads at school that if one of those students go and look in the photo, I want to say, who are these people? How is that possible? Because they're all signed into the same account, and it's auto backupping the photos. So any photos that I take on any device, so think about how you can have that. You turn your students into photographers and videographers, and then you don't have to go through the whole craziness of collecting all the devices and having them all lined up, plug them into iTunes, and da-da-da-da-da-da. They're all signed in, they're all there, and you can, from at home, just sign in under that account. So I can sign into this lower school account, and I can see all the photos taken on any of those devices at any time. And then I'm free to put them on a blog, put them on a website, put them on a newsletter, anything like that. So something else that will happen eventually, I was hoping it would happen within our time, and we'll look at it maybe later. But something else that's pretty cool about Google Plus is that it will auto GIF pictures with movement. And so it'll take a little bit of time for it to process and for it to recognize, oh, all of these pictures were taken at the same place about the same time, and there's movement in them, and then it'll turn into an animated GIF. And that's really cool. So I can show you an example there. So because I knew this feature happened, I knew that, I gathered up a bunch of students. I'm like, hey, everybody line up on the slide, line up on the slide. And as they were on the slide, I just started, on the camera app, you just hold down the button. It will just, this is with iOS 7. See if that decides to play. It will just auto burst. It will take 10 shots in a row. So you're like, I didn't know it did that. And so I told them, start going down the slide. I just started taking pictures. This is one picture. This is not a video. This is a picture. So I can embed this picture on a newsletter that would go to my parents, that I know that most of my parents are going to read their newsletter on their mobile device. And so the likelihood of them clicking on links to go somewhere else to look at photos is dramatically lower versus, oh, look at that, it's right there. And it has movement, and they're really going to look at it if it has movement. So you can do that sort of thing. The other big thing I told you about, give you at least 2 different reasons for Google Plus is personal learning communities, which are incredible in Google Plus. And that I would just say from an educator standpoint, I would highlight and recommend that if you go into communities and pretty much search for anything that you're interested in. I mean, that's really what marks the difference between Google Plus and other social media platforms, is that it's interest-based. It's not all you-based. That's the reason why it's not like Facebook. Because it's not all about you and your few kids and your cats. It's about things that, but it could be about cats that if everybody else is involved in, likes cats too. So, but as educators, you can look up like mystery international calls, and you can find other educators that are international and ask them, hey, can we do a Google Hangout, which I'll get to in a sec, and can we collaborate with you and maybe with 3 other schools across the globe? We can get our time zone stuff together and have a global hangout. And communities are awesome for that. So I'm sort of a STEAM catalyst, if you will. And so you see I got Raspberry Pi, STEAM educators. Question, comment?
Like with the slide thing, I'm thinking of like labs that take time, like go beyond, you think it's gonna last the whole period, but it gets extended. Does someone have to be filming that or taking those pictures, or can you set it up that they're...
Yeah, you can set up on a tripod. Something else, so kind of bonus for this is maybe you can use an app. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, you can use like iMotion HD, which is a free app which does time-lapse video.
Okay.
But the other thing is with it, you can export it. You can export those to your photo gallery, and then it'll automatically go into the cloud, into Google Plus, and then it will animate GIF it as well. So that's another way you can kind of...
I was just thinking, sometimes the kids, it doesn't end when the class period ends, and then the learning could be extended.
Right. And you would probably want to time-lapse video that. I think wherever, when I'm doing the picture taking, and I'm just taking pictures, and then I see movement. Sometimes I stage them, sometimes this is just a great place of movement. We were at the Biltmore House recently, a couple weeks ago, and I was looking over the Biltmore House, and it was just seeing the clouds. I could literally see the clouds moving. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I held up, it was actually my phone, I held up my phone, and I just said, chicken, 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 because I knew what it would do with it. And sure enough, I know these 2 ladies saw it, you see the castle, and you see the shadow, and you see the clouds moving. It's awesome. And so giving your kids those sort of opportunities, giving yourself those opportunities is cool enough, and giving it to your kids is really cool. Yes?
With Google Plus, we're doing the virtual flip trips.
Yes. 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 Yep. All right. It's my timeline. So I think I mentioned most of these things. So just some steps here that I'm telling you. And I would recommend, maybe for you personally, you're thinking, oh, I have that for my own personal place. I like where to keep all of my pictures in the cloud. You don't have to worry about where it went, or if I lose it or anything like that. Then on your personal account, my recommendation would be, on your personal device, would be that you would sign in with your personal account. That's just my recommendation, because if you're a Google App School, you know that account is owned by the school or owned by the district. And if you leave for whatever reason and you decide to delete that account, you don't have access to those things anymore. So if you want to kind of think that through and say, I'd like that on my personal device to be under my name, you can do that. And if you say, hey, I want to be virtually anonymous, but I'd like to do that auto backup thing, then that would be cool. If you would like to engage in some personal learning communities and personal learning networks, I would recommend that you at least put a profile, put your name, put a picture, do some stuff in your profile so that if you try to join a community, somebody doesn't kick you out and say, that's some weirdo, I have no idea who's that blue-faced person. So you want to have a little bit of credit if you try to join in on teaching and learning young children. Think about that. You can't be anonymous in that sort of setting. At least if I'm a moderator of that group, I'm not going to let you stay around. So events with picks galore. Just think about it. You just, depending on your age of students. Here's something else to know. Sorry, real quick about Google Plus is on the admin console. You can set all sorts of controls so that Google Plus is limited only within your domain. You can click and see everybody's profile, things that they're posting. You can allow them to post out or not. You can do all the same checks that you can do with all your other services. And so it's really, really cool. Hangouts app. So I'm curious with all of you Google App Schools, how many of you use Gmail versus using Outlook or your Exchange server and all that? Okay. So I'm assuming that you log in through the web view and all that. And so you've seen and you've known over the past year that chat changed to Hangouts. And what's it all about? Well, it's this integration. And there is an app that you can get on your mobile device, on your iPad. And what that will allow you to do is do the same function. So if I get a chat message from somebody, I'll get it directly here. But it's actually a whole lot more than that. So I feel like all right, we're all right. But I don't want to overdo our time. But let me just give you some of these things. I'll just tell you, you can video conference up to 15 people at the same time. Say up to 15 because from the admin console and Google Apps for Schools for Education, if they check off and say they want to give premier features or premium features, then you have up to 15, which is 5 more than what standard is, just 10. And there's just not another free service out there that gives you video conferencing like Google Plus does. If you're familiar with Hangouts on Air, Hangouts on Air are hangouts that you can have, those conferences, those video conferences that you can have with 10 to 15 people up to that amount. That is also live streaming via YouTube, so people can either join or can participate in multiple ways. So maybe it's just a close, maybe it's just a presentation. And so there's no one else in the Hangout, but it's still live streaming to YouTube, and you point people to the YouTube channel, and they're able to view it that way. I could say a whole lot about Hangouts on Air, but virtual field trips is the absolute best part about Google Plus. But I would say that you cannot start a Hangout on Air on an iPad, but you can join on one. So our faith studies teacher for middle school, or for a 6th grade faith studies teacher, she said, hey, I'd like to do that little Hangout on Air thing that you were doing so that it was live streaming on YouTube, because that means it's also auto-archived on YouTube. Think about some of the possibilities of that. I'd like to be able to have that sort of thing going on in my class so that if students are back at home and they're not present, they can view in and then also it's archived. She said, can I do that on my iPad? I said, well, kind of. So what we do is start it up on the laptop. Start it up on the laptop, set up the iPad, and then join in on it on the iPad. And then now you're on it. You can't start a Hangout on there via mobile. You can't join in, or excuse me, at least on iOS, you can't. So live streaming classes. What about student-led news broadcasts? So a fellow Google trainer named Kern Kelly, where he has what's called Tech Sherpas, and they do a weekly podcast where teachers fill out a Google form and ask different tech questions. And after school, they spend about 15 minutes, and they on the Hangout on Air from the desktop, because on the desktop you have more features, including the ability to mirror the screen and they go through and walk through the steps of how to do certain things, and it's live streamed, so any of the teachers can watch it then, and it's on archive. So that's a great thing. I'll mention that.
Is there the capability to make them private?
After the event, so that's a great question.
Because like with student announcements, we looked at doing that, but then
Right.
it's streaming live.
It is streaming live. Now, here's something to note. A couple of things to kind of work with this. So I occasionally will have a hangout on air, and I'm doing it from my Chromebook, which doesn't allow me to currently screencast in any other way except through using this. So I'm like, I want to use it, I want to use that functionality, but I don't want the whole world looking at it. Well, my personal account has a lot of followers on Google+, but my training account does not. So I sign in under my training account, and then I do my hangout on air. No one's watching that channel, if that makes any sense. And then
Because they have to be watching your.
they'd have to be watching your channel. The only way that they would be watching your channel is that you have to have followers. They'd have to know that it's there. And so if you have sort of an anonymous sort of account that's set up, and you do that through, so while it's live streamed, no creeps can look at it. And then as soon as it's done, I mean like immediately after it's done, it processes very quickly and it's available. You can go in and you can change the settings to private.
So you then change it on YouTube.
Yes. And then you can have that link, and you can have those links on the website or on a Google document or wherever it may be for people to click on to look at it. You can even use it just for recording, if you will, say this is a way to just record. So I used to have 2 other apps to share with you. I got to pick up the page, right? I used to have 2 other apps to share with you, but let me just say Google Voice. So any language teachers represented in the room? Okay, so somebody's gonna, you guys need to share this with your language teacher. Okay, cool. And you can do this with almost anything, reading and things like that. But let me just say this, on a desktop, set up a Google Voice account. Go to voice.google.com. Set up a Google Voice account. You get a number. I freely advertise to the whole world what my number is. You go to my website, I have a phone number. Why would he put his phone number out on the web? Because it's not my number. It's a Google number that calls my number. So what are the implications for a teacher? Think low-tech recording devices. Think take-home projects. I need you, when you go home, to call this number and to leave me a voicemail. You go home, they leave you a voicemail. I need you to read this or recite this or whatever it may be, and they leave you a voicemail. And then on the desktop, what you get is not only playback, and you get the bling if you have the Google Voice app, you get the notification that you got a new voicemail, but it's also a downloadable MP3. It's also an embeddable MP3. You can, with the Google Hangouts app, as of last month, you can also directly in it make phone calls. And so if you're trying to do one of these video conferences and you have 1 or 2 participants that cannot video collaborate with you, you can just call their phone, and so they can be on audio only. I'm gonna move through some of these YouTube and YouTube capture. Just try to, pun intended, capture imagination and how you can use some of these things. So, a lot of times we're all wary. Lots of educators, we're just wary of YouTube. We don't want our students on YouTube, but then when we think about all the different things that we as educators get off of YouTube, how about giving kids projects and telling them to go to different places to recite things or to say things, to give a presentation, and to upload it to YouTube onto your channel and then you play it back. Those are different examples of things that you can do. The YouTube capture, which again, just for time, I'll refrain, but the YouTube capture app is really cool because it gives you the same functionality if you just use the standard camera app and they said you want to export to YouTube. It gives you that, but it also gives you a few other features. It gives you stabilization. It keeps your privacy controls the exact same way as you had as the last time. So the last time you uploaded something, you uploaded it as private. It will keep those settings. It'll also allow you to trim it from front or back. It also allow you to add a little audio track to it. So it's just something to look at. Also, a lot of people don't know this, that online, and if you get on the web, if you go to youtube.com/editor, any of those videos that you've uploaded into YouTube, you can then use a really robust iMovie-like editor. And again, I'm thinking about every child, every digital child, thinking they may have access to certain devices at school, but do they all have access to the same devices at home? So now you're lowering the bar, you're saying, hey, can you get to the web? That's what I'm asking, can you get to the web? Three in a row, bang, bang, bang. Just make this real quick. If you use Google Drive and use Google Documents and spreadsheets and presentations, but you don't have the Google Drive app, you're missing out. So some people are going to say, I didn't know that. Didn't know that it existed, didn't know that it had the features that it does, and it is great. So Google Drive app will give you better viewing and editing and commenting and uploading opportunities than you do from the web version. Yes?
How, from the iPad, how do you get the presentations and the simultaneous editing used to work? And even like Sketch, like Google Draw?
Right.
We can't, I seem to have access to our docs and spreadsheets. I can't create a form, I can't create from my iPad.
Okay, so I'm in the Google Drive app. We'll see if we can find some of your questions. So here, that's another thing I love. You know, again, bringing up how you can app switch, or excuse me, account switch pretty easily. So I'm going to, I'll just stay in my first one. So notice here I am, and if I pull up, you know, my searchability is going to be really easy. Let's find this one. Here, I'll just. So this is one that I have view only. So maybe I won't use that one. So many things. That's why I was afraid to open up my personal one.
So we can see everything that's in our Google Drives, but we can't create
You cannot.
a presentation.
You cannot do presentations yet. You cannot edit presentations yet on Google Drive. You can only view them. So this is my soapbox. Stay away from it.
Is that coming?
I hope so. The Google. Well, here's why I have hope. Because of this second one. Because of Quick Office. Quick Office was bought by Google last year, and then real recently, it used to be a $15 app. Now it's free, and now you can use it for viewing and editing native Microsoft Office. And so it's really, really helpful. And you can tell, and they keep updating things, and you can tell they're merging. Even the color scheme, you can tell they are merging. And so my hope is that real soon they will merge completely. I would not be surprised if Quick Office goes away altogether. All of those functions and all of those things just go into Google Drive. That's not a stretch at all. So, Google Keep, I can tell you so much about that. But think additional features that are sort of missing, like just a simple notepad, but then also the ability to have pictures in Notepad, things like that. I better move fast. Google Maps and Google Earth. You don't have them, please get them. Google Play, all right, here's another one of those things. So this is sort of on the theme of curating your own topics. Again, thinking maybe having these dummy accounts that you put things in. So Google Play Books is really cool. So if you click on this link, and this is a workshop all in and of itself, and you can figure out, or you can upload EPUB and PDF files and make them, you know, books, make them ebooks, you know, with whole flipping and translate and define features and bookmark and all that. And think about it, the kids create their own books. That's really cool. That's really cool. But then you can also use some of those resources that I showed you before, like open culture, and you can say, hey, I want to upload some books. Like I've uploaded books to different grade levels that are free books that are out there, free to use, and then I upload them as PDFs or EPUBs on that one account, and then they can get to them on this account, on any of the devices. And then there's also a link here, and this could be a little bit complex, but that's for the braver part. You can use currents to create your own online magazines. You can also just curate existing magazines and news resources, which you can also create as well. I wanted to at least point out, and I was going to show you the Google shortener, but I've already run at time. But Snapseed is powerful photo editing software that was formerly from Nick. So this is professional grade. So when I show people this, they're like, oh, that's like Instagram. And I want to like kick them in the teeth because that's not true. Because Instagram is like really, really simple filter stuff. And if you care about photographs and all and true editing, you want to be able to show off a whole lot more than that. And at least respect the art of picture taking, so of photography and editing. So let's say I pick this picture, which is right outside of our school, and I can go through and selectively adjust all sorts of things, like that. I can also fine tune, going all the way down. I can change the ambiance, however you say that. Change the saturation, make that a little bit better, make it a little bit warmer. Compare the original to what I'm doing to it right now. I can even, here's a really great deal if you know anything about photography, that's HDR, so it's 3 different exposures all layered on top of one another. So again, there's the original, it's a pretty bad picture actually, and then there's a true HDR. Snapseed is awesome. Google shortener, just to give you that note there, you can see for yourself what you can do with Google shortener. And last but not least, just want to point out, Blogger, there is a native Blogger app. And so you can do some cool stuff if you guys use Blogger. And then some of you may or may not know about this #1 selling device on Amazon since it was released. It's called Chromecast. It's $35. And it does not do all that the Apple TV does. It does not do mirroring, but what it does do is streaming content. And so for $35, you can plug it up to your projector and then, or television in your room, and then you can stream content. So again, maybe a YouTube idea, send your kids out to go do a little video project, come back in, and then cast it onto the television. Boom. Things like that. You can also do what's called tab browsing. So using the Google Chrome on a desktop or on a laptop, you can then do tab casting. So it then does mirror anything that's on your computer. But it's then working on the horsepower of your computer versus if you're using a mobile device, it's just pushing content from the web to it. So it uses YouTube, currently YouTube, Netflix, Hulu Plus. So if you have a Hulu Plus account or a Netflix account, and you guys are watching a film or watching Mythbusters or something like that, that's what's cool. Think for every kid, that's my biggest thing. Think for every kid, think open, an online community that's dedicated just to thinking about how do I make sure that every digital kid has access to the same things versus us being exclusive with what we promote. And I vet all of our apps using a search engine called Quixie. And so I can see, oh, somebody brought up, this is a great app to check out. And I go to Quixie and I see, is it available on Android? Is it available on desktop platforms? Is it cross-platform? Because am I going to be providing equal access to my kids, to my school partners, things like that. So I definitely recommend Quixie. And I've killed more time. Thank you very much for your time.